It's 8:40 going on 8:41 for about KRC Talk Station. Brian Thomas here. KRC Cares. We do care, and we do a segment regularly called KRC Cares, and I'm pleased to have in studio this morning Jeff Pritchard. He is the CEO of Beckett Springs Hospital. I've been speaking on Beckett Springs' behalf, and they're experts in mental health and addiction treatment. And wonderful people too. And this time of year, and welcome to the studio. It's great to have you in, Jeff.
Thanks.
I always hear about holidays being depressing for people. I've never personally found it that way. You know, I've got family and a support group, and may have my ups and downs. They usually don't come at Christmas time or the holidays, but that isn't the case for a whole lot of people. So let's talk about the stress and anxiety that a lot of people face and what they can actually do about it. So, and that's what you do at Beckett Springs. You help people navigate that.
It is, and I think we see it, around the holiday times. It's exactly what you said. Some folks have a lot of stress, but not a lot of support.
Not a lot of support. Or
Right.
they just maybe feel lonely.
Right,
and
absolutely.
they buy into the propaganda that people on Facebook are all having these glorious, magical lives, and that these photographs are illustrative of every single day, and it's Warden June Cleaver perfection.
Exactly.
Trust me, it ain't happening.
Exactly.
Nobody is living that life. So ignore that, but you do see it. On television, you see it, we're all together for the holidays. You see it in commercials. And
I think sometimes there have been happier holidays in the past, and I think those things are stressful too. As folks go through and life becomes more stressful, maybe someone's lost a job or addiction has crept into the family or there's mental illness that's not been dealt with. I think the holidays exacerbate those symptoms and make things worse.
Now, let me ask you this, because you did talk about stress and anxiety, and I think about like post-traumatic stress, what our soldiers face, because they're on that sort of Damocles hanging over your head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, kicking indoors, and they're on, and that's got to change a person's mindset, but. Stress, generally speaking, and anxiety, a lot of people suffer from it. And what do? I think most people probably end up self-medicating. Hell with it. I'm just going to have another beer. I'm going to pour myself a scotch. And that blanket of warm bliss will just envelop me, and I won't be thinking about it anymore.
Well, and we know those things are depressants at the end.
Yeah.
They may make us feel a little better for a few moments. But what we know is when folks do self-medicate, over time that's going to become a problem. And it's when you wake up the next morning, the problem's still there. The things that made you do that are still there. And so what we encourage folks to do is to deal with those support systems. And in extreme cases, we offer support day to day. We have inpatient programs, but we also do a lot of outpatient work. Where folks come to us through the day in a PHP program, at night through an IOP program, and we provide professional support as well as, directing folks to set up their own good support system at home.
Okay, and before we went on air this morning, my guest today is Jeff Pritchard, the CEO of Beckett Springs Hospital, they offer addiction services and mental health services and treatment. You had mentioned about the holidays, and while they are stressful, I asked you about the nature of your business, and do you see a big increase in the number of people showing up for treatment at Beckett Springs, whether inpatient or outpatient? And you had an interesting response from me. We'll get to that since we're out of time in a moment here. We come back with Jeff and maybe offer some help for you or maybe a loved one. 8:49, 55 KRC, the talk station. If you get a chance to listen live, pull it up on podcast, 55krc.com. Specifically today, that will be my dad's Monday morning spleen vent. In the meantime, I am pleased to have in studio Jeff Pritchard. He's the CEO of Beckett Springs Hospital. Their motto is there's hope, there's help, and recovery at Beckett Springs. They specialize in mental health and addiction treatment. I'll give you their number right now, and it's a number you might want to keep handy if you know someone, or maybe it's you, got a substance abuse problem perhaps, or really struggles day to day with this intense anxiety, any kind of mental health, very significant stress issues. These can lead to substance abuse. Quite often they do, because people love to self-medicate. And we're all guilty of it at some point, of maybe having an extra cocktail or something because you've had a tough day. Well, that can turn into something a little bit more significant. That's where Beckett Springs steps in to help people, giving them coping skills, really. 942-9500 is their number, 942-9500. Keep that one handy. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for admissions and availability, and a no-cost assessment. And, Jeff, while I just mentioned cost, something you brought up, and I wanted to, in light of the holidays, the extra stress, you see it. That's why you're here talking about it today. You want to let people know there's some help. And I said, well, that means you guys probably get a real big uptick in advance of the holidays in business at Beckett Springs because people are all stressed out. And you said, no, that's not the case. It's after.
Right. Right. It tends to be the slow time for us, November, December, around the holidays. I think a lot of folks think, let's get through this, let's have the holidays like we've always had them.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, we'll deal with these problems. Can't we all just pull it together and get through? So, yeah, our big uptick begins at the beginning of the year.
And so if somebody's handling or having stress and issues and anxiety issues and problems, I guess you teach them, is it a sort of a reprogramming, an adjustment of their mindset? You help people. How does that kind of work generally, without getting into the specifics of each individual therapy, of course?
Sure. I think with anything we deal with, what we try to do is we try to dig into what kind of things were you feeling when these symptoms came on, and how do we go back now and teach you to recognize those things, and when this happens in the future, if it's these are the times when I drank or used drugs, or this is the time when I was anxious, how do we catch that early, and then how do we take these coping strategies, these new skills taught by our therapists and our physicians, and catch that early on so we don't relapse into something that's a full-blown crisis. Let's stop it now. Let's get hold of this, and let's practice living for the future. And that's really what the recovery is I learn to live a different way.
And this happens, it happens to people of all socioeconomic levels. This mental health cannot be, there's nothing that's...
Absolutely. We see folks from all walks of life. We see folks with big bank accounts and folks who are so down on their luck they don't have anything when they come in. All levels of education and functioning, and it doesn't discriminate.
Well, and it's a very, very delicate subject, of course, mental health and drug addiction, but I have to put a sort of logical monetary component to it, because you mentioned before, a lot of people don't show up till after the holidays, and
Right.
The corollary to that was, right after the holidays, we'll see a big uptick in January.
Right.
Well, here's where you might want to take finances and factor it into the equation. If you spent any money this year on medical treatment, your insurance deductible may already be taken care of, or your out-of-pocket liability. So you wouldn't be facing as much or that problem going as you would after January.
Absolutely. There's a big difference. Even if you haven't met that full deductible this year, and it's something we don't think about a lot, or folks don't think about, but beginning of the year, those plans start over, and now you're due for the whole amount. So, folks are putting something off. It really is worth considering. Let's get this started now. There's really no greater gift to give around the holidays than recovery.
No doubt about it. And, I've had listeners over the years tell me that, I used to struggle with this and I got help, and it is the absolute smartest thing I ever did. I wish I hadn't waited. I wish I hadn't been concerned about, the stigma that allegedly goes along with it. Yeah. There's no reason for you to feel that way.
Right. There's not. And again, no better gift, this holiday than, hey, let's get this started, let's knock it out, and let's get on track to where we want to be with life.
Before you go, Jeff, are there people who are struggling with mental health issues, and I think, again, about the anxiety stress component, that just think everybody feels that way? That's normal? That I just feel I just don't cope with it as well as everybody?
Yeah, I think so. Tough things we deal with when folks come in are one of two things. Everybody does this, and I'm just not good at it, or I'm so different that I can't function at all. And we see folks, stay at home, and they feel ostracized, and lots of folks are dealing with these issues, and when we can get folks in and to sit down and discuss those problems and really begin to dig in, folks feel better, I think, starting pretty immediately.
That's great. Results are quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Beckett Springs is the name. It's Beckett Springs Hospital. The number again is 513-942-9500. They're always there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for admissions availability. They do a no-cost assessment. So you have the hope and the help and the recovery. It's right there at Beckett Springs. And don't wait till after the holidays. If you're struggling now, they'll accommodate you. Again, it's inpatient and outpatient. You can do one or the other. They'll evaluate you. They'll make a good recommendation. So, again, 942-9500. Jeff, thanks for all that you're doing throughout the year. I know you're making a huge impact in people's lives, and I know this year you'll be even doing a lot more.
Thanks, Brian. We appreciate it.
I'm happy to speak on your behalf. Going on 856, 55 KRC, the talk station. Hope you can tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. Got Congressman Brad Wenstrup and Alex Trantafila, who's voting right now for Donald Trump. He's an elector, and we all know about it. And he got threats just like everybody else. We're going to hear about it tomorrow with Alex. And I hope you can stick around. The Glenn Beck program's next.